white upper-middle-class suburban background, for a significant portion of his childhood, he was pretty convinced he was down. AD on the radio.
Yeah, oh, let's go. That mess better act like you know. Oh, let's go tonight. Walk away, punk, yeah, bitch. That's right, I know this. You're nothing but a punk, bitch. You're nothing but a punk, bitch. So walk away, yeah, yeah. You've been talking about me for a long time.
So Ben Carson did something the other day that really impressed me. Would I vote for him? I don't know. Jury's still out, really. I mean, and to be honest with you, I'm not entirely sure I know enough about him to make an educated decision one way or another. So, don't consider this to be an endorsement of Ben Carson, but I really like what he did. And he did something that brought out what I think is the best in people. And he did it in a very, very tough situation where things could have gone wrong extremely easily. What Ben Carson did was he dealt with the issue of the Confederate flag. And he did it in front of a crowd of NASCAR fans. Now, Ben Carson, I don't know if you know, has some personal history with the Confederate flag being used against him as a symbol of hate. And he dealt with the issue of the Confederate flag in front of a crowd of NASCAR fans who love Confederate flag waving at NASCAR events, and he did it without selling himself out. We'll get into it, but right there on the razor's edge. Kind of exciting to watch, and we'll talk about it in a second. In fact, we might wind up talking about Ben Carson and the flag for a significant portion of the show. I thought the flag was kind of done. I thought it was a non-issue, but it came screaming back, and in a weird way, I think it's one of the best things to happen for America in a little while. But as much as we kind of sort of have to talk about that today, there's something that I absolutely don't want to miss, so I want to get it out of the way right from the get-go. A show on Headline News called The Daily Share. You ever see that? Did a segment yesterday about Edward Snowden joining Twitter. He's on Twitter. I think it's @Snowden, and in case you forgot, he's the guy who leaked a bunch of top secret stuff and was granted asylum in Russia. And the folks over at Headline News interviewed a guy named John Hendren over Skype, who is supposed to be an Edward Snowden supporter. Funkhauser, did you see this yet?
No,
As this is a lesson to producers to always do their homework. Headline News, a reasonably large media outlet, interviewed this guy, John Hendren over Skype. And he was supposed to be, like I said, a Snowden supporter. Turns out he wasn't a supporter. He's a black belt level troll. And this is where the doing your research thing comes in. Had the producer of Headline News been doing the research when he booked the guest, he might have seen his Twitter handle, which I believe is @fart.
Fart? Like
@fart. Yeah. Can you look it up right now? I can't really.
@fart, huh? Mm.
Yeah.
The top dollar Twitter name right there.
I can't believe. Yeah, no, unbelievable that this guy got it. John Hendren @fart. Are you finding it?
Twitter.com/fart. And there he is, John Hendren.
Like, I admire this guy for getting in under the radar and getting the Twitter handle @fart first and foremost. But, a producer that was worth his salt. Super producers to the stars like Barry Funkhauser, the producer on this show, who you can tweet @FunkFM, and you can tweet me @ADSXE.
We would book @fart. We
would book @fart, but you know what we would do? We would know we were booking @fart. And we're just two people. We're not like this huge CNN-related media conglomerate like Headline News. Anyways, it just goes to show, with the 24-hour news cycle, people tend to turn and burn without always necessarily doing their homework. And anyways, Headline News interviewed this guy, John Hendren, over Skype. Supposed to be a Snowden supporter, not so much, more a black belt level troll with the Twitter handle @fart. That should have been a giveaway. Instead of talking about Edward Snowden, he talked about Edward Scissorhands the whole time. And the craziest part is the reporter didn't even seem to notice, even when he said the name Edward Scissorhands. Hold on, let me.
You have audio?
Can you hear this? Do I have the right button pushed?
Do you think Snowden's actions were worth that risk?
Like, he could. Absolutely, he could have. But I think to cast him out, to make him invalid in society, simply because he has scissors for hands, I mean, that's so strange, because, I mean, people didn't get scared until he started sculpting shrubs into dinosaur shapes and whatnot.
All right, well, now Snowden's living in Russia. Actress Zach tweeted this. Dear Edward Snowden, what do you make of the massive Russian misinformation campaign going on? Listen, some people say it's hypocritical that Snowden has asylum in Russia. Russia has a lot of human rights violations.
Well, yeah, casting him out is just completely wrong. We're treating him like an animal, like somebody who should be quarantined and put away. Just because he was created on top of a mountain by Vincent Price, and, incomplete, with scissors for hands and no heart, Edward Scissorhands is a complete hero to me.
But what about the choice that he made to live in a country like Russia?
I mean, where else is he going to go? You know, we cast him out. Like, we got scared when he poked a hole in a waterbed with his scissor finger. Like, that was just unreasonable of us.
Well, John, I appreciate you giving us your opinion. Thank you.
No, thanks.
And like, you got to watch the video, because you see the moment that she realizes that she's been had, and not only had, but had numerous times. Like you like it's almost imperceptible, but it's a deep look of shame on her face. It's just like, and you know what? I think this is indicative of a real problem that we have with the media, not only in America, but in a global sense, is people are only too willing to sort of crank out content. And they're not looking to do a whole bunch of homework. And also, they're not looking to really, really listen. Like, she was given many, many outs. She could have, the first time he said Edward Scissorhands, she should have gone like, oh, I see what you did there. Well played, sir. Goodbye. I'm going to kill my producer. But no. She is as complicit in the retardation of the progress of the human species as anybody else in this situation. And I thank @fart for shining a light on this sort of thing. I'm sure he's going to be booked out the yang, but can you, as a
black belt level troll, is what you called him?
Black belt level troll. I believe @fart will be booked for the significant future, but as a super producer to the stars that does his homework, Funkhauser, can you maybe chase up @fart on Twitter and see if we can get him on the show?
I got him already. There he is, right there.
But if perhaps we could get that guy on the show, that would be awesome.
Can we double troll him to get him on the show, make him think it's something else?
You know what? I don't
want to talk about the
that
fiscal crisis or something?
That guy is probably absolutely untrollable. I just have a feeling that if you're going up against that guy, you're not going to win, because the artful and subtle way in which he handled headline news, I mean, yeah, there we go.
Global warming for real.
Anyways, we'll get into the news later on today. It's just that I really want to get through a bunch of this stuff because, well, I was really kind of blown away by what Ben Carson did this past Tuesday just gone by, and a lot of people seem to be ignoring it. I haven't heard too many people talk about it, and I think folks have glossed over the significance of what happened. And it just seems it's so impressive, and it's such a revelation. It reveals a better part of human nature. And that's something that I don't think we've seen too much of in the run-up to pulling the lever for democracy in 2016. So I wanted to shine a bit of a spotlight on what Ben Carson did this past Tuesday just gone by. He's right there. Ben Carson's right there on the razor's edge. And I think stuff like this is kind of exciting to watch. What are you and I talking about? The Confederate flag. See, if you're like me, you kind of thought we were done with the whole Confederate flag thing. I think Ben Carson did too. I think he said as much when he dealt with it. But he did deal with it in one of the trickier questions that's been thrown at him since this whole Ben Carson for president thing kicked off. Ben Carson, in case you missed it, and like I said, you might have for some reason, not too many people talking about this, but Ben Carson took a trip down to North Carolina this past Tuesday, just gone by, a state where it's only by the thinnest of margins that he's behind Donald Trump for first place in the polls. I think he's like 4-5 percentage points behind Trump. And essentially what he was doing was he was lobbying for the endorsement of Richard Petty, who's out there and is an absolute icon of NASCAR. Now, the NASCAR Confederate flag thing is obviously a bit of a freaking landmine for someone like Carson. He's seen as, well, Ben Carson, in political terms, Ben Carson is kind of a unique, sparkly, mythical one-off unicorn. He's a black Republican candidate who can snag Kanye West's approval. Kanye West loves this guy. This is a black Republican candidate who can win votes from either side of the political fence. Case in point. I know some white liberal folks that seem to be only too happy with the idea of pulling the lever for Carson. And when I talk to him about it, I'm like, but he's a Republican and you're a liberal. He kind of stands for a whole bunch of things that you don't like. And they're just like, well, it's time. We don't feel like Barack really did a good job of this. And Carson represents a minority. He can put his life experiences into the White House and make the world a better country for all of us. And for that reason, I'm willing to cross party lines and vote for him. Like I said, white liberal folks, sort of maybe out of a bit of a sense of white guilt, willing to vote for him. Or maybe, that's cynical of me to say so. It's just, these are liberal folks that I've never seen say anything good about a Republican ever, just as prejudiced in their own way as the far right is. And that's interesting. That's interesting because, like I said, Carson has a somewhat unique ability in this playing field to gather folks from both sides of the political fence, which could beat Hillary. It's a big deal. But when you're dealing with something like the Confederate flag, the wrong answer could alienate absolutely everyone. So when he was asked to deal with the question of NASCAR fans being, it was controversial, but he was asked to deal with the question of NASCAR fans being asked to stop flying the Confederate flag at races. I don't know if you recall, but it was a whole big thing where NASCAR was like, please don't wave the Confederate flag at races. It's a symbol of hate. And they're like, what? It's a symbol of we hope this guy wins for us for a long time. Oh, man. And when asked and given the potential of stepping on this landmine, which could have exploded in his face, Ben Carson, similar to the black belt level of dealing with people that @fart displayed when talking to Headline News, he was a bit of a ninja in this situation. He said people can do whatever they want on their private property. That's one of the basic tenets of freedom in America. Now, Ben Carson, he also has personal experience with the Confederate flag. And it's not a good one. Ben Carson said that a neighbor flew the flag as a message to us, quote unquote, when he moved down the street. It was used as a symbol of hate. When Ben Carson and his family moved into a neighborhood, the Confederate flag was flown as a message of hate, of intimidation, whatever you want to call it. It's not a positive thing. It's not one of those positive heritage, not hate, examples of the flag. How did it all end? Well, he said the neighbor took the flag down when others in the neighborhood flew American flags to shame the guy who was using the Confederate flag as a symbol of hate. So he also pointed out the very real comparison that exists for a lot of people between the Confederate flag and the swastika. And he said swastikas are a symbol of hate for some people too, like the flag, like the Confederate flag. And yet they still exist in museums and places like that. And here's the thing, like I said, right there on the razor's edge in this particular situation. But he went over huge with the crowd. Pretty much most of what he did, I hear, was met with thunderous applause. So, like I said, Carson's he's really walking a fine line. And what he managed to do there was he managed to endorse the flying of a flag he admitted symbolized hatred, much like the swastika that he felt had been used to intimidate him and his family. And he won the crowd over, shared his personal experience while not trampling on other people's feelings. And it worked. Like a ninja. Amazing. How do I feel about the flag? What changed my feelings about the flag? We'll get into that shortly. Thank you so much for hanging out. Tweet Funkhauser @FunkFM. Tweet @Fart. Tell him to come on this show.
This is your USA Headline News, I'm Melody Burkett. More than 1.3 million bicycles are being recalled in the U.S. because of a crash hazard. The recall involves 13 companies, 17 different bike brands, and model years 1998 through 2015. The bikes have quick-release levers on the front wheel that could potentially cause the wheel to stop or fly off if it comes in contact with the front disc brake rotor. The bikes cost anywhere from $200 to $10,000. They're sold under various brand names, including Fuji, Giant, Hero, and Diamondback. Arizona Senator John McCain says he can confirm that Russian airstrikes hit U.S.-trained rebels in Syria. McCain told CNN this morning that Free Syrian Army recruits trained by the CIA were hit during the first wave of attacks. Russia continues to launch airstrikes today in Syria. U.S. and Russian military officials are holding talks today about the growing conflict. For the USA Headline News, I'm Melody Burkett.
Want an exciting future that blends technology, creativity, and healthcare where you'll help people every day? Orthotics and Prosthetics, O&P, is the evaluation, fabrication, and custom fitting of artificial limbs and orthopedic braces. O&P professionals bring quality of life to those with disabling conditions of the limbs or spine or limb loss. And jobs in O&P are available as soon as you complete your training. Dale Peterson, Technician Program Laboratory Manager.
The folks that graduate from our technician program are going to be fully qualified for a career in orthotics and prosthetics technical work.
O&P's the perfect career for veterans under the GI Bill and anyone looking for an exciting career that changes people's lives.
I'm Michelle Hall, and I'm a certified prosthetist orthotist. On a daily basis, I make a difference in people's lives, and you can too.
Check out opcareers.org to learn more. It's your future, your way. That's opcareers.org for more information. 100% funded by a grant from the U.S. Department of Labor's Employment and Training Administration. For more information, visit Hope Careers.
What's trending?
This update is brought to you by TrueCar. Find the new car you want, see what others paid, and lock in guaranteed savings from TrueCar certified dealers. Save time, save money, and never overpay. Download the TrueCar app today. In baseball, checking the playoff races, a couple of birds punched their playoff tickets. The Blue Jays beat the Orioles 15-2 in Game 1 of a doubleheader to clinch the AL East title. It's their first division title since 1993. And the Cardinals, as expected, can clinch their NL Central title with an 11-1 win over the Pirates in Game 2 of a doubleheader. St. Louis wins its third straight division title, and they also post their 100th win this season. The Angels lose to the A's 8-7. That snaps the Angels' 7-game winning streak. The Astros take advantage, moving into that second American League wildcard spot with a 7-6 win over the Mariners. Houston has a half-game lead now on the Angels. Twins split a doubleheader with the Indians. Minnesota's a game and a half back of that second AL wildcard spot. I'm Eddie Garcia.
We are Sports. iHeartRadio puts the spotlight on U2. After 1988's #1 album and rockumentary film, Rattle and Hum, U2 took a break and looked to shift their musical direction. The result was 1991's Achtung Baby. It was their first #1 debut in the U.S., and their Zoo TV tour led right to 1993's hit Zooropa album. U2 kicked off the new millennium with 2000's All That You Can't Leave Behind, hailed as a comeback after mixed reaction to 1997's Pop. The new album became the first album to have multiple songs win the Record of the Year Grammy, Beautiful Day in 2001 and Walk On in 2002. The band released 2 more albums in the 2000s, How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb in 2004 and 2008's No Line on the Horizon. After a 5.5-year gap, U2's next release was Songs of Innocence in 2014, and the band went on tour in 2015 for the first time in nearly 10 years. U2 was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2005 and have won over 20 Grammys, more than any other group. All things U2. Info, music, and more are on iHeartRadio. Keyword U2.
iHeartRadio goes one-on-one with Mike Rutherford to discuss the art of songwriting.
I've learned one thing over the years is that actually you can't control it. You can't force it. You can't analyze it. You can't worry about it. You just go and have a good time and mess around, and then something comes along and you grab it. You know, it's something intangible. And if you try and make a program on how to do it and do it better, you get lost. So it's like a free-form thing, which you can't control. You just let it ride or not ride. And if it's not working, then you just have a break. That's what I've learned.
Keep listening to iHeartRadio for more Mike Rutherford and all your favorite artists.
more AD on the radio.
Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you a musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD again. Nobody rock a party better than me. Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you a musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD again. Nobody rock a party better than me.
So if you're just joining us, today on the show, we're talking about Ben Carson and the Confederate flag. Now, the Confederate flag I thought was a dead issue, and Ben Carson thought it was a dead issue too. So when he went down and had to answer questions about it while lobbying for an endorsement of NASCAR great Richard Petty, he was just like, geez, I thought we were over this. But he really turned a very tough situation into an absolute positive. Look, Ben Carson, if you're just joining us, is a guy who can draw from both sides of the political fence. This is a guy that can, in a situation that makes conservatives go from 6 to noon, this is a guy that could beat Hillary, we think. And he could do that because he pulls from either side of the political fence. There's people that are willing to cross party lines to vote for him. Yet he was put in the unenviable position of talking about the Confederate flag while amongst a bunch of NASCAR fans who were upset that they weren't allowed to fly the Confederate flag during races. And man, did he do a stunningly excellent job. Did he do a stunningly excellent job of not selling himself out and dealing it with a way that wound up being very positive. It was an absolute landmine of a situation, but he managed to explain the fact that a Confederate flag had been used as a symbol of hate against him and his family when he moved into a neighborhood, and a neighbor protested him being there by flying the Confederate flag. He managed to liken it to a swastika, but he also said, hey, flying the flag is one of the basic tenets of freedom in America. And what I feel he did that was so brilliant was he endorsed flying the flag that he admitted for him had been a symbol of hatred, much like the swastika, and he won the crowd over by sharing his personal experience while not trampling on other people's feelings. And it worked. Very impressive stuff. Now, here's how I feel when it comes to the Confederate flag. I have absolutely no skin in the game. The flag to me has always meant the Dukes of Hazzard, and pretty much there it ends. But, I can tell you one thing about the flag. I wasn't a fan of the division that the flag caused, because people get dug in about this stuff. People are very quick to say, over this and many other issues, as I'm sure you've realized, people are very quick to say, I'm right, you're wrong, how you feel is invalid, go F yourself, I'm flying the flag. Or on the other side, suck it, I'm burning your flag, Nazi. And to each of these people, I say, I like your passion. I like your passion. I do. And I really admire people that live with their heart on their sleeves, but screaming and yelling at people for thinking something different than you. If you're screaming and yelling at someone who is different than you just because they're different, you are complicit in the retardation of our development as a species, and I would like for you to stop. You ever been to any kind of relationship counseling? Or maybe you're just good at dealing with people in relationships. Funkhauser, you ever been in a fight with your girlfriend? Whichever girlfriend it is at the time?
Not the current one, but yeah.
Yeah. So, you ever been in a situation where your girlfriend's like, I feel like you did this. And you go, oh, well, don't feel that way because, you're wrong. Have you ever?
Yeah. Yeah, and then I
you
got
want to be
punched.
like, oh, yeah, yeah. And look, Funkhauser's a guy without a bad bone in his body. I'm sure that if he hurt his current one and only, or a past one and only, it wasn't on purpose. But it's inevitable in life. You're gonna hurt people's feelings. They're gonna understand something differently than you understand it. You're gonna go. They're gonna. Look, everybody's been in that situation where someone goes, I feel like this because you said that, and and that's not what you meant. And you say the absolute wrong thing, which is you go, oh, well, don't feel that way, because that's not it at all. You're wrong to feel that way. Funkhauser, after you have told whatever girlfriend you're in a fight with that they were wrong to feel hurt because you're a good guy, was everything all flowers and roses? And when she honking on Bobo later on in the evening? I'm going to go with no.
Doubtful?
Yeah, doubtful. So if you are adept at navigating choppy emotional territory, you know this. Or if you've been to relationship counseling, you know this. You can't tell people how to feel, and you can't tell people that what they're already feeling is wrong. It's a quick route to disappointmentville, population U. And, well, here's the thing about disagreements. I love it when people disagree with me. Hear me on this one. I love it when people disagree with me in a civilized manner, and they engage in a little bit of conversation. Because when people disagree with you and they're willing to be civilized about it, you know what that is? That's a real opportunity to learn something from someone who's had a different life experience. I love knowing stuff from people who've had different life experiences to me. And with the flag thing, I got to admit, when we first started talking about this on the show, I was reasonably dismissive. I was like, I got no skin in the game. And, oh man, it seems to be causing a lot of trouble. Why don't people just let it go? Which was short-sighted of me, but I hadn't had much sleep that day. And I got an awesome email from a guy called Clay. Clay listens to me on this talk show and I think a couple of other things that I do. And Clay really, really listens. Why? Because he's got a lot of time. I think, man, he's really kind of an interesting guy because I believe he does something in finance, accounting, to like where he travels and he goes and deals with people's books. But I think he's figured out a situation where he can work from wherever he is. And what that's allowed Clay to do is become an absolute road dog musician who takes it to the people every single day with the band that he's in, the Josh Garrett Band. Really, really cool band, by the way. And because he's a road dog musician, Clay spends hours and hours and hours and hours in the van. It was one of those things that I couldn't get used to when I was a professional touring musician. You get into the tour bus and you're like, okay, gonna drive 9 hours to Detroit to spend 45 minutes on stage. Go figure. But Clay listens, and we've kind of become pen pals. I think he reached out to me initially to tell me I was wrong about something, but he did it in an evolved way, which made me ask, what do you think? Why do you think that? Interesting. We'll get into exactly what he wrote me in just a little bit. Thanks so much for hanging out.
About 10 with puppies in my face, and Dad gotta join the human race. Time for a yawn and a stretch and a walk, you see.
iHeartRadio puts the spotlight on AC/DC. AC/DC was formed in 1973 by Angus and Malcolm Young in Sydney, Australia. The brothers came up with the name, an abbreviation for alternating current direct current electricity, when their sister saw it on a sewing machine. Their older brother was a member of the Easy Beats, one of Australia's most successful bands in the 60s, who had an international hit with Friday on My Mind. The group's original lineup included bassist Larry Von Crite, drummer Colin Burgess, and singer Dave Evans, though Evans was replaced by Von Scott in 1974. By that time, Angus Young was already wearing a school uniform as his onstage costume. In 1975, AC/DC released their debut album, High Voltage, which was recorded in only 10 days in Australia. Mark Evans and Phil Rudd replaced Van Crite and Burgess after the album, and the new lineup released their follow-up, TNT, later in 1975.
'Cause I'm TNT. I'm dynamite.
A compilation of both albums was released internationally in 1976. Following 1977's Let There Be Rock, Evans was dropped and was replaced by Cliff Williams. All things AC/DC, info, music, and more are on iHeartRadio, keyword AC/DC.
iHeartRadio goes one-on-one with Mike Rutherford to discuss that even though there were generational difficulties, his father was always quite supportive.
You know, you've got to understand, I'm sure it's the same over here, but in England, you know, that generational change from my father's era to my era, you know, he was the English Empire days, 2 world wars. It was hard to communicate. There was a big divide between us. It's just, there was no dialogue really. You couldn't discuss things because there was no sort of platform to share conversations on. But no, he was supportive, and in a way, you know, given that he hadn't got a clue what I was doing, you know, in those days, what parent did in those days, you know, music, long hair and a guitar, he was given that. He was very supportive.
Keep listening to iHeartRadio for more Mike Rutherford and all your favorite artists.
Now, someone who everybody wants to punch in the face. AD on the radio.
Cause you know you love the sound. Rock the radio, rock the radio, rock the radio.
So if you're just joining us, Ben Carson masterfully dealt with a situation where he was asked about the Confederate flag in the Carolinas this past Tuesday, just gone by, in front of a bunch of NASCAR fans who were kind of like bummed the hell out by the fact that they could no longer wave Confederate flags at NASCAR events. And the way Ben Carson handled it was kind of brilliant, because he managed to not trample on their beliefs and said, yeah, it's one of the basic tenets of freedom. Private property, kind of do what the hell you want. But he also didn't sell himself out. He made it clear that the Confederate flag had been used as a symbol of hatred against him. And, that's a landmine. That could have gone badly wrong for him, but it didn't. He managed to win the crowd over, and he shared his experience without trampling on theirs. And that is something that is noticeably absent from the world, but especially the world of politics in this day and age. And I had my own little version of a back and forth with someone like a Ben Carson when I got an email from a guy called Clay. Clay's a guy that listens to the show, like all of the show. Why? Because he has a lot of time on his hands. He's in a rather awesome band called the Josh Garrett Band, and they are genuine, real deal road dogs, playing night after night, taking it to the people, independent, awesome, grinding it out, doing what has to be done in this day and age to make a career in music. And Clay's kind of become a bit of a pen pal of mine. And he fundamentally disagreed with me on some stuff. I love it when people fundamentally disagree with me on stuff because, well, it means they have a life experience that I don't understand or I don't relate to, because it's not me. And as long as you come at me in a civilized sort of way, I don't take that as someone stepping to me. I don't take that as fighting words. I take that as an opportunity to learn. And he did it. He hit me up in a civilized way saying, I disagree with you. And he did it in a way that made me go, why do you think that? Let's talk about it. As opposed to some other people who hit me up, be like, you're an idiot. I'm like, yeah, bite me, dog breath. But, by the way, he plays harp. He plays the harmonica in a band called the Josh Garrett Band. They have an awesome, awesome album called Honey for My Queen. Let's take a listen to what one of our listeners does on a regular basis. Very impressive stuff. Real deal musicians, guys that can really sing and really play. Hucking it out on the road, doing what they're passionate about. Honey for My Queen is the album, the Josh Garrett Band. Back from Memphis is his song. God, he's like a really good harmonica player too, isn't he, Funkhauser?
Well, I packed a bag from Memphis.
Anyways,
so good.
So good. Give the album a listen. Honey for My Queen, the Josh Garrett Band. Their harmonica player, Clay, is a listener of the show that engages me on a regular basis. Kind of like a pen pal. And he became my pen pal. Minus the pen. Yes, kind of a Twitter pal. But he became my digital pen pal by sending me an email about the Confederate flag, which really opened my eyes, just because he speaks to an experience that is not mine. And he said, my concern over this rage to take the flag down from wherever it flies is the snowball effect that it could have on historical monuments and information, websites posting Confederate history. And then he tells an amazing story. He says, imagine yourself a barely educated, half-literate farmer in Mississippi in 1862. The raging war has been far off for over a year. You own a small plot of land where you raise and grow what you need for your family to live on. You have no slaves. You have no stake in a rich man's war of ideology, economics, or territory. You have a field to plow, chickens to feed, and kids to raise, but you hear that death itself is on the way. General Grant is making his way to Vicksburg, and you're between him and his aim. Word has reached your community of what an army on the march will do to your farm, your possessions, your life, your liberty, your wife, your daughter. What would you do? Isom Cephas Peoples, mustered in early 1862 in Madden, Mississippi, with the Mississippi 33rd Infantry, Company A, also known as the Cumberland Guards, to fight Grant's army, to defend his home and his family and his livelihood from the Hun slashing its way closer every day. Isom joined the fight. The next year, he was injured at the Battle of Raymond, from which he walked back home to Neshoba County and died. He was my grandfather's grandfather. I have only a picture of his gravestone, as that cemetery has been nearly destroyed by vandals. There is a website and countless others that are similar that details the history of these soldiers and their battles. The battle flag of Northern Virginia, aka the Confederate flag, is incorporated into the MS-33rd flag. What if the knee-jerk zeal to please this demand for political correctness forces sites like this to shut down? I have no other way to connect to or share this part of my history. I don't even own a Confederate flag. But if we erase it, and statues of Lee or Stonewall Jackson rename streets to erase all traces of that part of our history, we are no better than the Taliban, who systematically destroy ancient monuments. They know that one day, no one will remember it. It's my history. Am I going to have to give that up to a cultural meat grinder that we all know will move on to eventually destroy all evidence of anything that offends? That is what troubles me. Not a dumb TV show like the Dukes of Hazzard. Hey, you watch which TV shows you're calling dumb. Not a dumb TV show being dropped or flags being taken down. But information, truth, history, disappearing. Now, I don't think hearing from Clay, and by the way, what a powerful email. What a powerful letter. How well written was that? It kind of takes the pressure off me as a radio host to come up with something when someone can write to me that well and that artfully, and I can just parrot it out on the radio. Thank you for that. Now, look, I don't think hearing from Clay is going to fundamentally change the way people who are against things like the flag feel. If you're like Dr. Ben Carson and the flag has been used as a tool of hate against you, hearing from Clay in this respect is not going to change how you feel. But if it can maybe help people who have no idea, understand a point of view that is not theirs, if it can help people understand, maybe get a little bit deeper into the issue before people get so dug in, that's extremely valuable and extremely powerful. Having the ability to put that sort of thing into words the way Clay did is something that I wish everybody who just screamed at the top of their lungs, heritage, not hate, had the ability to do. Because that makes you lean in. That makes you listen closer. That makes you try and understand. And this is what I like about what Ben Carson did. Carson did for that crowd of Confederate flag wavers what Clay did for me. Here's a guy who's kind of got every right to go, yeah, the flag's a symbol of hate. It's been used as a symbol of hate against me and my wife and my children. Let's burn it. Let's burn the Confederate flag. It's been used to make me feel like less of a human being in the United States of America, and that's not cool. Ben Carson would be completely within his rights to feel that way. But he managed to explain his experience with the flag to people who felt the exact opposite. And you know what he did not do? He did not condemn them for their beliefs. He did not assume that they were racist, bigoted, hateful scum. Ben Carson, in essence, did something very, very simple that all of us could do, but way too few of us actually do. Ben Carson respected someone's opinion, even though it wasn't his own. And everyone there that day left probably feeling more connected to something that they didn't understand, more connected to their fellow American, more connected to their fellow man. everyone there that day left, I'm sure, feeling less divided. And let's face it, that, my friend, that is something that we need. Thank you so much for hanging out and being part of my radio family. We'll be back on Monday. We'll do this all over again, although not really all this all over again. We're going to be doing something entirely different. We're going to be hanging out with Allie Hayes, Penthouse Pet of the Month, adult entertainer extraordinaire, and all-around sweetheart. Smart as a whip, too. We're really, really excited about this. We're very, very happy to have her back on the show. She's been on the show before. I played...
She wasn't here when I was here, though, so is there anything I should know before her arrival on Monday?
She's smarter than both of us put together, which is not that smart, but still, like, very, very bright, very, very smart, very, very sort of, like, genius-level girl who also happens to be smoking hot and pet of the month, and just, she will charm up a storm, Funkhauser. You know what, though? The only problem with having Allie Hayes on the show is after I met her, and I was doing my usual adult web browsing, it kind of limited my options a little bit because she's extremely well known. She's done an awful lot of stuff. She is all over the interwebs. She's all over the fappier side of the interwebs. And after meeting her, I was just like, no, she's in this. Can't do it. I felt like
my eyes.
Yeah, I was just like, I don't want to see that. That's my friend. This is the awkward. And yeah. So I mean, look, the upside of the situation is Allie Hayes is going to be on the show, and she is going to be awesome, I'm sure, as she always is. The downside of the show is that after getting to know Allie Hayes a little bit, you, like me, might have to adjust your web browsing habits.
Everybody's not like
so
us,
much.
so it should be.
Well, yeah. Are you trying to say we're better than other people, Funkhauser?
I'm just saying we're different. That's all.
It's kind of elitist of you. Or maybe we limit ourselves. I think, you know what, limiting ourselves is probably closer to the truth. Anyways, thank you so much for hanging out for another week and being part of our radio family. Joining the conversation, tweet super producer to the stars, Barry Funkhauser at Funk FM. Tweet Allie Hayes if you want to and let her know you're looking forward to listening to her on the show on Monday. Tweet at Fart, the master troll, and ask him to be on the show. And tweet me at ADSXE. Have yourself an awesome one.
Times you feel like it's cool to turn the other cheek and give people the benefit of the doubt even when they don't deserve it. And sometimes you feel good about yourself for being the better person and doing that. Well, this is not one of those times. I don't think you realize what's on my mind. I've been too nice for way too long. I think I want you to know just what is going on. So bite me, you're a bag of suck. Every second I'm around you I put down to bad luck. And knowing you just sucks every day. And I wish I could find a way to make you go away. So maybe if I just tell you you're a terrible person, you leave me alone, yeah, that would stand to reason. Maybe if I spell out how I feel, it will make you go away. So let me make it clear how I feel today.
Real Radio 104.1 Real 104.1 Radio 104.1